I'm going to call our regular school board meeting to order. It is Tuesday, November 15th, and this is the Duluth School Board. We are meeting here at East High School because we are temporarily displaced because of the sale of our old central campus on 2nd Street, and we are awaiting with anxious anticipation the new district business service building up on the central high school campus. And so we're here at East High School. Last season we spent the year at Denfeld High School, and we just graciously thank the East High School facilities and the staff for allowing us to use the media center for our meetings. So again, this is the ISD 709, the Duluth School Board. We welcome our community tonight, our staff, our school board, our student reps, and it is held once a month. And I'll turn to temporary clerk, Amber Zadowski, for a roll call.
Member Dirk Eater.
Here we are.
Member Kirby.
Here.
Member Lafayette.
Here.
Member Lofa.
Here.
Member Oswald is excused. I am here. Member Sandholm.
Present.
Superintendent Magus.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Present.
Finance Director Zunich. Here. HR Director Severance.
Here.
Board Secretary Paquette. Here. And Board Secretary Carol is excused. Student Representative Soraya Crawford.
Here.
And Student Rep Eileen Ox.
Here.
So next on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise, the flag is right over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and board members, you've had the board book packet, and I'm looking for an approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have such a motion? Member Sandholm makes the motion. Do I have a second? Second. Member Loeffler Kemp. All those in favor of approval of the agenda say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Moving along on our agenda, it is now at number 5, school and community recognition. And this has always been a highlight of our board, and we're excited to always highlight and bring forward community people or school staff. And tonight, we just have some unforeseen circumstance with the honorees tonight. There was some illness and some non-ability to come forward, so we're gonna delay and do their celebration in the month of December. So we're gonna move past number 5. That brings us to public comment. And again, we're so appreciative of the community that comes forward to share concerns and celebrations, challenges, and opportunities. So I'm just gonna get the list of speakers, and while we're getting the list, I will have Member Eater read for us our civility code.
All right, 11. Do I start at community vision and priorities?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Community vision and priorities for Duluth Schools. We will build on our shared beliefs and values of unity, high achievement, and responsible use of resources to create Duluth public schools and classrooms that are safe, supportive, and inclusive. We will work to inspire every student to achieve their potential and prepare students to lead productive, fulfilling lives as citizens of Duluth and the wider world. 11 tools of civility. This school board recognizes 11 tools of civility that will provide increased opportunities for civil discourse in order to find positive resolutions to the issues that face our community. These tools include pay attention, listen, be inclusive, don't gossip, show respect, be agreeable, apologize, give constructive criticism, take responsibility, be honest and care for others, show your evidence, share your reasoning.
And I'm just going to share with you the guidelines that we give to our community. They're on our board book as well. And again, we're thankful for those of you that come forward to share your concerns and your ideas with us. Information to know before speaking before the board. Persons wishing to address the school board must sign in prior to the meeting, listing their name and the matter on which you will speak. If you have any handouts for the board, please give them to the school board secretary located over there on the side of our room. Each person addressing the board will have 3 minutes total. And we have a timer right here, and a green light means, go, and we're starting your time. A yellow means caution, start wrapping up. We probably have about 20 seconds left. And a red means to stop. And at that time, the board chair has the challenge of just a slight light gavel to, signify that, jump to your conclusion, and it will be great. Persons addressing the board shall confine their comments to matters pertaining to the agenda or relevant matters of administrative concern. In the interest of respect for each public comment speaker, please hold any commentary or applause during the speaker's time until they are finished. And then when speaking, our use of names or any information that identifies a specific individual is legally prohibited, and you'll be asked to end your comments. So again, thank you for coming forward to share your comments. Our first speaker is Joanna Cummings, and on deck is Charlotte Ashman.
Good evening. My name is Johanna Cummins, and I'm a Spanish teacher at Dunville High School. You may recognize me as I spoke here last month. At the October school board meeting, several teachers and parents spoke about the impending lack of world language options in the middle schools. As we anxiously awaited decisions affecting both students and staff, the secondary language teachers devoted part of our professional development day to consider what our future curriculum might look like. We discussed the possibility of what language learning may look like in the middle schools in the future if we would have an exploratory course to dive into various languages and various cultures, perhaps teaching a surface level language with deeper exploration into culture and geography. We have students for a trimester, a semester, a rotating block schedule. The considerations for these options bring up other concerns. First, that there is an assumption that language and culture are disparate entities when teaching one without the other is a disservice to students who will be future members of the world's best workforce and international ambassadors. Second, that the amount of instructional time would be decreased in favor of other courses and subjects. This leads to a third drawback. Based on data compiled by the World Language Specialist from the Minnesota Department of Education, a language learner needs over 1,000 hours of exposure in order to truly be proficient in a language. That is what we risk taking away from our learners. What we were glad to find out today is that a decision has been made to maintain the current programming and scheduling for world languages through the 23-24 school year. This will give the district additional time to make a decision about the middle school curriculum, a decision that I sincerely hope the district and the school board take seriously. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for your time.
Next is Charlotte, and on deck is Chelsea Adat.
Bonjour, hello, gukfel, buenas noches. My name is Charlotte Ashman, and I teach Spanish at Orlean East Middle School and East High School. And I was a former immersion teacher at Lowell Elementary. I want to thank the school board, the school administrators, employees, and the public for allowing me to express my concerns regarding the middle school world language program. We live in a multilingual world where monolingual is so passé and a bit of a faux pas. Bravo to ISD 709 for being one of the 4 great districts in Minnesota. Our curriculum should be similar to the other great districts. They are keeping world language in middle school. In fact, the national trend is to offer world language in the elementary level. The World Language Department understands the need to be in compliance with the new Minnesota art standards. We are looking for a creative solution to retain world language permanently in the middle school. My pro bono suggestion is to expand our current 6.5 period day to a 7 period day with 3 easy steps. At first, we could reduce the length of each period by a mere un minuto, 1 minute. We could extend, the second step, extend the school day up to 12 minutes. That's accommodated by the transportation department. And the third step would be to eliminate WIN, which WIN classes are overcrowded because part-time teachers do not have to have a WIN. And if electives were reduced, there'd be more part-time teachers that compounds this issue. So the 7 period day serves our students better and provides them with a smorgasbord of quality courses, including world languages and art. Capiche? Eliminating world language from middle school is a step backwards. I urge the public, the school board, and the administration to put on our thinking berets and create a solution that embraces both the arts and the languages. Our district strives to improve test scores and balance our budget. There's a solution that is wunderbar. Retain the emergent students in our district. They have test scores that are magnifique. We do not want these students to leave to go to other districts. Marshall. Each immersion student that leaves after the 5th grade could have boosted our district's test scores and given the district 7 more years of per pupil funding. The World Language Department is an ally for these incoming immersion students. They deserve the promised core course, but the world language could at least support their language skills. As the district accommodates immersion students at both middle schools, voila! Higher test scores, no transportation issues, and more per pupil funding. Viva ISD 709. To our school leaders and caring public, I'd like to end by saying merci, gracias, miigwech, mahalo, tusen tak.
The next speaker is Chelsea, and after Chelsea is Heidi Schumann.
Hi there, my name is Chelsea Adet. I teach 5th grade at Myers-Wilkins. I'm here today to advocate for our school's need for more mental health support and smaller special education caseloads. I know many people feel Myers-Wilkins already gets enough extra support, but I encourage you to look further into just how intense the needs are at our school and to consider what is equitable. We have so many amazing, hardworking staff in our building, but there's only so much we can do. To illustrate this, the two 5th grade teachers and I, all 3 of us together, at my school, compiled a list of items that have been violently thrown by various students in our 3 general education classrooms throughout the 48 days of school so far this year. 25 desks, 4 chairs, a set of student mailboxes, 2 plastic pencil boxes, 5 classroom library book bins, 1 pair of shoes, 17 trash cans, a table, approximately 20 books, 3 bookshelves, and countless ripped up papers and pencils. The throwing of objects is just one way that our students with intense mental health needs are affecting the safety of our school climate, not to mention our ability to teach and the students' opportunity to learn. We're also seeing students storming out of class multiple times a day, witnessing many physical and verbal altercations, and have had 3 situations where students have actually run away from school grounds. What makes this so difficult is that we don't have enough resources to effectively support our students. For example, the emotional behavior disability teacher services 32 students throughout her day, which makes it nearly impossible to provide all those students with the service minutes they require, while simultaneously supporting their behavior within the classroom. We also have students coming to our school with IEPs that call for a setting 3 EBD classroom, which we don't have, so they are placed into our general education classrooms with little to no support. Parents are frequently being pulled to support behaviors elsewhere throughout the building, and we lost a .6 special education and social worker this year on top of it. The ultimate reason I decided to share my thoughts today is that students are starting to share that they are not feeling safe at school. I will read to you an excerpt of an email I received from a parent last week. My child came home yesterday saying that she was scared in her classroom. A desk was thrown in her direction, garbage knocked over with yogurt everywhere. This student that caused this harm came back into class a short time after. She has mentioned other things this fall, but this one really spooked her. At the bare minimum, school should be a place where children can feel safe and cared for. So to hear students share that our school is not a safe place to be, that our school is potentially causing more trauma to students because we do not have the resources to help the students with the trauma they come to school with, is a breaking point for me. Please consider how we can more equitably allocate resources for smaller caseloads and more mental health supports within our schools so that they can be a safe place to be. Thank you.
Heidi, and then on deck is Carol Marsh.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heidi Sheckman. I'm a teacher at Lowell Elementary. I'm also a parent of a student here at East High School, as well as a student at Ordine East. I'm here tonight wearing both of those hats to give the board a pat on the back and encouragement to continue the Be Smart program. We know that 75% of school shooters obtained a weapon they used from their home or from the home of a close friend or relative. Keeping our students safe at school means stopping gun violence before it happens, with actions that focus on preventing kids from getting unsupervised access to guns in the first place. Furthermore, we know that if more adults responsibly store their weapons, we could prevent gun suicides and unintentional shootings among our youth. Safe storage is not a partisan or controversial issue. In Minnesota, it's against the law to leave a loaded firearm where a person knows or should reasonably know that a child under the age of 18 can access it. I'm so grateful to you all for spreading awareness of the importance of secure firearm storage, specifically with the implementation of the Be Smart program. And today you can take another small but really important action that will keep our kids and our community safer, not only at school but in their homes, simply by passing a resolution that directs administration to provide the secure storage information to families on a regular basis, specifically through the Be Smart program. It's important to me for like a million reasons, but here are two. And the first is that I know that it takes a village to protect and raise and educate our kids. And that includes educating families about how they can support their kids at home, like keeping them safe by locking up their firearms. Because students and family and staff deserve to feel safer walking into our school buildings each and every day. Thank you all. I am so grateful for the work that you do.
Carol Marsh, and then on deck is Sarah Mixell.
Good evening, my name is Carol Marsh. I am a nurse practitioner. I am a mom of 3 adult children who all graduated from the Duluth Public Schools. And I'm a grandmother to 3 future public school students. I really would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak in support of sharing information about secure gun storage with families in our district. Gun ownership is certainly a personal decision, but secure storage is really a public safety issue. Firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens. It's estimated that 1/3 of youth suicides and unintentional deaths can be prevented by securing guns. Every year, nearly 350 children under the age of 18 unintentionally shoot themselves or someone else. Another 700 children die by gun suicide each year, most often using guns belonging to a family member. 3/4 of school shooters under the age of 18 obtained their guns from their own home, a relative's home, or from friends. According to a survey of 1,444 U.S. gun owners conducted at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, more than half of gun owners do not safely store all their guns. An estimated 4.6 American children live in households with at least one unlocked and loaded firearm. The Be Smart program aims to raise awareness about safe gun storage. We know that having a conversation with gun owners about secure gun storage can be challenging or awkward, but the Be Smart program offers strategies that normalize that discussion about safe gun storage. They provide excellent educational resources, and they emphasize that it is an adult responsibility to control kids' access to guns. And finally, they call on every adult to play a role in keeping the kids and communities safer. Since 2019, school districts across the country have passed school board resolutions to require that information be sent home with students to educate parents and guardians about the importance of securely storing any firearms they own. Voting to approve this resolution is one way that you can demonstrate your commitment to providing a safe learning environment both at school and at home for the students in our district. Thank you.
And after Sarah, it's Kevin Hession.
Hi everyone, Chair Local, school board members, student representatives, administration, and staff. For those who don't know me, I'm Sarah Mikesell. My family and I have lived in Duluth for 12 years. I'm a nurse. My husband and I have 2 sons, a junior here at East and a 6th grader at Orting East. I'd like to start my remarks by thanking you all for everything you do to keep our kids safe. As others have mentioned before, firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens in Minnesota. As a school board and as a school district, you have been terrific advocates for gun violence awareness and prevention. For the last 4 years, as a school board, you acknowledged National Gun Violence Awareness Day and Wear Orange weekends in June. In those acknowledgements, you stated, "We renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe." Since then, you have kept your word, and you have shared crucial and potentially life-saving information about the importance of adults securely storing their guns so that children cannot access them while they are unsupervised. In October of 2019, after an elementary school student brought a realistic-looking pellet gun to school, Homecroft Elementary School and the school district included a firearm safety reminder in their newsletters, which included information about secure gun storage. In May of 2021, after a lockdown occurred at East High School, ISD 709 included safe gun and ammunition storage information in the district newsletter. In December of 2021, after a social media post of a gun was sent to Orting East students, and after the school shooting in Oxford, Michigan, ISD 709 shared information about the importance of secure firearm storage and communications with district staff and in the district newsletter. Last July, after the shooting death of a Duluth High School student by another teenager, Superintendent Magus highlighted the importance of secure gun storage in his posts on social media and in local news stories. In his statement, he said, quote, "Too many young people have died in our community and around the country due to gun violence. Safety of our students and staff is one of our top priorities, and there are many things we can do to ensure the safety in our buildings, but we can't do it alone. Please support us in being part of the solution by talking with your kids and ensuring that your firearms are safely stored," end quote. Again, I thank you for your past advocacy for student, staff, and school safety. And tonight I rise in support of a resolution directing district administration to regularly and proactively inform parents and guardians of their obligations regarding secure storage of firearms in their homes. While many responsible gun owners follow recommended storage practices, research shows that more than half of gun owners do not store all of their guns securely. By taking proactive steps to promote responsible gun ownership and secure firearm storage, ISD 709 can prevent school gun violence and help keep our school community safe. Thank you.
Next is Kevin, and on deck is Stacy.
Well, I have a very, very brief statement to make this evening. I want to thank the school board and administration for sharing our concern for the current state of middle school music. And I just want to say we had the most wonderful meeting yesterday with Superintendent Magus and Assistant Superintendent Bonds and Ms. Larva and community members. And I have renewed faith in the way the district is proceeding in the future. And as just a citizen now and a retired music teacher, I just want to offer any help I can give to the board in the years ahead. Thank you so much.
Stacy, and then our final speaker is Haley Sigafus.
Thank you. My name is Stacy Achterhoff, thank you, yeah. And I am coming up on 20 years of teaching for Duluth schools. I've taught a variety of roles, K-12, and have spent the last 15 at Nettleton and Myers-Wilkins. Both of my children attended Nettleton and Myers-Wilkins as well. This district created Myers-Wilkins when it took the 2 poorest elementary school neighborhoods in the district and combined them, intentionally creating our district's poorest and most racially diverse school. And this choice generates revenue that isn't spent at Myers-Wilkins. With rates of poverty typically around 85%, our families, our children, also have greater disparities than greater disparities that make typical public education designed for middle class hard. Our kids endure higher rates of family underemployment, incarceration, mental health crisis, drug and alcohol abuse. They have lower instances of housing stability and food stability. Because of all these disparities, we need more staffing and mental health resources, more than we currently have. With our current mental health support, 25% of our teacher calls for support are still going unanswered in the building. It is astonishing that we faced a cut in special education social work time for this school year. We need the 0.5 sped social worker that was cut last school year back. Our students are suffering, their education is suffering, and our staff is exhausted. I know that from where you sit, it may be difficult to imagine the impacts of poverty and trauma in an elementary setting. We don't have that luxury in Myers-Wilkins. Thank you.
Haley, and then that's the last of our speakers, but we've always opened it up to any additional speaker to come forward.
Hi, I'm Haley Segathas. I am a Spanish teacher at Denfeld. I'm currently working in my 8th year as the district. In the district, I also came as a student in the district in 4th grade. So I've been in Duluth Public Schools basically my whole life, over 20 years. I am here to address the lack of pre-planning that continually is happening in this district. I know that many of you are trying your best, and I appreciate that, but it's simply not enough at this point. We had 6 years to plan for the immersion students to be in a middle school. Whether it was Lincoln, whether it was Ordine, whether we tried to address the discrepancy between the different socioeconomics between schools, it doesn't matter. We had 6 years to figure it out and we did nothing. We had 3 years to start figuring out how to work with this new middle school language or art requirement that could eliminate the languages. We did nothing. The school board and the school district and everyone involved needs to be taking more proactive steps to plan for our future. We are teaching the future of Duluth. We are teaching our community. And right now we are teaching them, I don't know, I'm gonna wing it. It isn't working and it needs to be done better. The 7-period day needs to come back. The use of WIN is wonderful in theory, but since we don't have any teacher representatives up here, you don't have anyone to tell you that WIN is a mess. I'm teaching my 1st year of WIN. 8 years I've been teaching. I was a traveling teacher up until now, and oh my gosh, my WIN is a wreck. It is 30 minutes of playing on phones. It is asking students, hey, can you double check that your attendance is correct, and being sworn at. There is no reason for us to be wasting our children's time for a 30-minute texting and video game break every day, when we could, as Ms. Ashman said, add 12 minutes to the end of the day, take away the WIN period, and put in a 7th period. If students are struggling, perhaps they don't take a 7th period elective. Perhaps they get put into a study hall or a guided study hall. We could use some of these teachers on their 6th assignment to have a guided study hall where it's 10 kids together and you go through each other's grades and you go and you help each other. But instead we just have them sit on their phones for 30 minutes. The continuation of the lack of pre-planning, not having a 7-period day, not planning for the art standard to change and the immersion schools is just embarrassing at this point. And I truly hope that you will all take a moment to consider this. I do believe you're trying your best, and I appreciate that, but it is simply not enough at this point. Thank you for your time.
Is there any other speaker that would like to come forward? Seeing none, we're going to then continue on our agenda tonight. I think it's okay. It'll be fine. We don't need it. So that brings us to number 7 on our agenda. It's reading communications and petitions. And board, I just want to call to your attention, we did have a letter come to us on and through the mail, which then gets it listed on our petition form on our board book. And it was just a letter that we also got emailed to us. And so I just want to call the attention to the fact that There was a letter. It was also emailed to us, and it concerned our world language program. That brings us to number 8, the report of the superintendent. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Magus.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to cast its TV here. Here it goes. So first of all, coming up. There it is. All right. So we always start with our student reports with Ms. Knopf and Ms. Crawford. If you'd like to share your reports, that would be excellent.
Hi everyone, it's nice to see you again. I missed you last week, last month, jeez. So most of our fall sports have come to a close. Winter sports are starting up soon. Dance and girls hockey have already started, and then girls hockey had their first game this past Saturday. Skiing, both Nordic and Alpine, boys hockey, girls and boys basketball, and boys swim team are all starting within the coming weeks. Julia Zimpel on the girls swim team qualified for state this year in the 100 breaststroke, and state swimming starts on Wednesday. We can't wait to see her succeed at that. Girls basketball tryouts started yesterday, as well as club season volleyball. Harvest is happening again this year for the first time since 2019. Exec is selling tickets this week in person and online. It's November 19th at the Garden in Canal Park. There will be multiple photo booths, raffle prizes, goodie bags, and a lot of other fun things, and the school's excited to finally have it back. Exec started making video announcements on Mondays in hopes that information can spread more easily and effectively, as well as making them a bit more fun and engaging for students. Association is having a talent show this Thursday that will showcase many people and their talents, as well as a myriad of skits done by association members. It's always a great time. I encourage anyone who can to go. It's quite entertaining. East is part of the Unified Bowling Invitationals this December 2nd. They're selling t-shirts and hope to see many people wearing them in support on that day. We're having a blood drive on the 23rd of November. Knowledge Bowl is starting after Thanksgiving break. The Little Mermaid, the musical, was performed at the beginning of this month and was a huge success. Tickets sold out 3 of the 4 nights. And it was a much welcomed change of pace from past musicals. It was very whimsical. The set and costumes were really fun. And transforming a cartoon movie into a play, I would consider to be a very tricky thing, and I think that they did it really well. Key Club is helping out with the Gobble Gallop and the Deck Thanksgiving Buffet, as well as bell ringing. That's some of their upcoming events. There's also a new peer tutoring system that's being led by Mr. Geisler, I want to say is how you pronounce it this year. It's been quite successful, and so NHS members have been tutoring and mentoring students who are struggling. And they've seen a very good success rate with it so far. Duluth East engineering and manufacturing students recreated the Denfeld clock tower arms, and the construction class just wrapped up their first garage job for the year and have moved on to their second. The DPG career fair was a huge success as well. The Duluth Police Department brought their specialized vehicles and a lot of staff to talk to students about careers in their field. There were also colleges with law enforcement programs there, and it was such a success that they're considering repeating it in the spring with a full first responder career fair with more agencies and programs. And then finally, our holiday concert tickets go on sale on December 3rd. That's all I have for you guys today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. As they have said, the quarter 1 for us has been wrapped up. To celebrate MEA weekend and the fall parent-teacher conferences, we had our staff had a chili cook-off, and Miss Wood, our science teacher, won. Fall ball was held at the deck on Saturday on October 9th. It was really beautiful. It was nice. The music music was okay. As good as it'll ever be, I guess. For Halloween, our robotics team and NHS, they did a trunk or treat event at American Legion. Our fall play She Kills Monsters, which is D&D based, Dungeons and Dragons, was held in our lecture hall on November 10th through the 12th. We also had our annual Veterans Day concert on November 10th, where our band, orchestra, and choir performed in our auditorium. Grace McCormick and Chuck Johnson, they made it to state for cross country, so congratulations to them. Our Clock Tower Cafe has just opened up during only one of our lunches on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Our senior class has begun their meetings where they are able to order caps and gowns and where they begin to plan our all-night grad party. We had a blood drive held on Friday from 7:30 to 2:30, brought together by Key Club. We continue to celebrate our hundreds of the month each, sponsored by Bell Bank. Our band is hosting an annual indoor marching concert on the 22nd, and last Tuesday we held a focus group with Central for Educational Leadership, where the school brought in a bunch of different voices from all different backgrounds in our school, and where they got to just talk to a facilitator and share their experiences that they have at school. And also, Exec and NHS are preparing for the Christmas City North Parade. For clubs, our Goals group, Gathering Our Leaders and Determining Solutions, is a group of diverse leaders that have begun to meet regularly so that they can work together to help staff and students solve different problems that we have in our schools. And we also have started mini clubs within our school, such as Pokemon Club, Book Club, Dungeons and Dragons Club, which I really like because it has created a bunch of small communities within our school where people can connect with each other about different things. Knowledge Bowl and Math Team has started up, and an anime club is coming soon. For sports, girls and boys basketball has begun. Tryouts have already started, as well as Nordic ski. And our Black Student Association is getting together with, what is it called? Sorry, I'm blanking on that school's name. Superior's High School, and our BSAs are going to get together, and this Friday we are going to go to the West Duluth movie theater, and we're going to go see Wakanda Forever. And to celebrate Native Heritage Month, we are doing Rock Your Mocks Week, set up by JP, an integration specialist. On Monday, we handed out blue, maroon, and turquoise, maroon, and gold ribbons. And people were able to fill out these posters, either saying I'm Native and what Native tribe they belong to, or saying that they're an ally and how they support their Native peers. Today we had a photo booth where people were able to take pictures and just show off them being an ally and their moccasins. Wednesday, tomorrow, will be Dress Your Best. Thursday, Thursday is also going to be Dress Your Best. And Friday is going to be Gold, Maroon, and Turquoise Day. And that is all I have for you.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you. And thank you for participating with other students in that forum with the Center for Educational Leadership. It was a great opportunity for our district principals to listen to feedback from students about their experiences and what are things that we could potentially, what's going well, but also what can we change to make those daily experiences better. So thank you.
And what did you say about anime during that session? You said something about anime. Repeat what you said.
Just that there's going the anime club is starting up.
And you also said something like anime brings people together.
It does. Oh yeah, at the SCL meeting.
Yep. Anime brings people together.
It sure does.
Thank you both. Really appreciate those student reports. So as we continue, I have several topics tonight. One is the school board work session, just a quick update summary of what we talked about. Then a strategic planning update. Then some additional information on the elementary and secondary scheduling. Brief update on our music supports, which we heard a little bit about in public comment, as well as where are we at with those education after hours groups that we're meeting with. So our school board work session update. We had as you know, but our public does not necessarily, we had a work session here on October 26th at the high school, and we had several objectives. One was relationship and team building amongst us. Also developing and growing as we achieve our mission and work towards that. A review of the education leadership system, and then some work on the school board 3-year board governance plan. So with that, the outcomes for the meeting that we achieved were better defined roles, responsibilities, and protocols for operating within governance and management. We also discussed some things related to budget. Some of those things were micro things related to like what is the board budget for travel and things like that, but then some macro things as far as how does budget play into things. And we have a follow-up presentation at the December 6th board meeting about some financial potential next steps that we can consider. And then we also finalized our 3-year board governance work plan, as well as the goals for myself as superintendent for the next year, as well as the school board goals. So very grateful for that time. As far as our strategic planning update, we have, we've been working with TeamWorks, we've been working for the Regional Centers for Excellence, we've had our internal work related to strategic planning. It's also important that we're engaging stakeholders in conversation about where we're at. We've done quite a bit with tribal consultation, and we're really trying to make sure that that's an ongoing dialogue and relationship as opposed to a once a year bureaucratic checking of the box. It really needs to be based in where we are with our students, especially as we think about our ESSER spending. And I have a Gantt chart here. I think I need to uncast here. Let's see. So if okay. So this Gantt chart, it's a little small, but hopefully you can see some of it, but it's shared within your board report as well. So basically through TeamWorks, as well as within our own operational planning, as well as we're working with the Regional Centers for Excellence, we're working on a variety of strategic planning initiatives, but those are all braided together. And basically, as we work with TeamWorks to determine our strategic roadmap and operational plan for the coming year, that's our session that we'll be having on the December 6th. We're also putting in place the things that we're working on within our district as far as the operational plan. And really what we're trying to do within our own system this year is lay the groundwork and make sure we have the teams and structures we need to be successful moving forward. So we've got a lot of work going on with making sure that our infrastructure for our multi-tiered systems of support is in place, that we have our CS, continuous improvement teams and professional learning teams in place, as well as thinking about the work that a little bit of the work you heard about with Center for Educational Leadership, the better definition of our leadership teams. We also are working with the MDE and the Regional Centers for Excellence. They've identified individual schools and the district as a whole because of some of our performance. And so we're working with them related on this, and they're supportive of how we're weaving these efforts together. We're also joining a cohort with several other districts, and there's a link there with more information, to further that work on multi-tiered systems of support. Sometimes when we think about multi-tiered systems of support, we think about what are the interventions that are taking place for kids, and what are we doing with kids that are really struggling as far as tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. But multi-tiered systems of support also considers tier 1. What is it that we're doing universally for all our students? So what is our instructional model, and how are we making sure that the the way that we instruct and the goals we have for academic achievement and instruction, that those are as clear as possible. So with that, we'll be doing additional needs assessment work through the end of the year, working on those plans and putting those plans in place. And then we'll be making sure that our district improvement plan and school improvement plans interface, so that when we listen to what are the things that the individual schools are working on, we can shift our district plans so that they meet those needs, and also so that the individual school plans are aligned with the efforts of the district. So it's a back and forth conversation related to what are the needs of the districts, what are the needs of the schools, and how are we serving each other. And those plans go into effect for the 23-24 school year. So I'm really excited about the way that's all flowing together. But we also have to think about, with that, how are we allocating our resources? We have a lot of things coming up that have financial impact. And we hear quite often about what the needs are and how can we meet those ever-growing needs. And I sincerely wish we could say yes to everything. And I'm looking at Simone's looking at me too, saying, you can't say yes to everything, but she too is our finance person. We wish we could say yes to every thing that is out there, but it's important for us to base those decisions on where the needs are greatest. So Simone, you've heard Simone share information at HR Finance about where we're at with our audit of the district and where our funds are from where we were last year, as well as our enrollment projections. And we're up over 80 students this year, so over last year, over projection. So we're excited about that we're over projection, and we believe that our student enrollment is stabilizing. And actually prior to the pandemic, it had stabilized and was going up a bit. So we believe that kind of that saying, or that perception that everybody's leaving the district, it doesn't really hold true. We're maintaining our students and actually going up in some regards. With that, there are other things that we need to think about that have financial impact, because in January and February, as we go into the new year, we'll be thinking about contracts and how do those contracts play into the financial stability of the district, but then also as we make changes, as we think about different middle school models, and if we think about different ways of laying out the elementary and secondary schedules, some of those require contract language changes. So it's something that's interfaced together. And then you also see the state budgets are playing into things quite a bit, because we have had some somewhat unexpected results from the recent elections that we believe will have some impact on the budgeting within the state related to funds for education. But we also, we can't count our chickens before they hatch, proverbially, because we think that things will be more positive, but until we see money in hand and money in the state budget, we can't count on that being there. But we do want to make sure that we're planful around that. There is sentiment too that, you know, even though there's a lot of positive thinking about what this might mean for state funding of education, there's a lot of other news that we're headed into a recession, and so there might be hesitancy for vast amounts of additional funding by the state. So we need to make sure that we're tempering our expectations, but they are cautiously optimistic, I would say, about where we're at with the budget. But they're also cautiously optimistic that we will actually have the state budget set before the end of their legislative period. That you know, I think it's May 23rd is when they conclude. So we're really hopeful that we'll have a better sense of where we're at budget-wise, so that we can continue to make those spending decisions. And as we're looking at staffing in individual buildings, we can know where we stand. Along this line too, you see another line there. There is a need for us to consider where we're at as far as our operational needs, and if there was a need potentially to consider what might we think about related to a tax levy or referendum, we'd want to begin conversations around that, because in order for us to do the many things that we talk about, the many things that we desire, to say yes to more and no to less, I think that we're going to need more resources, either from the state or considering some sort of operational levy that would allow us to have increases in what our schedule can offer for students, as well as decreased class size and supports for technology. So those are things we're going to talk about at the December 6th meeting, but I wanted to foreshadow that a bit. And I'm going to close out of this, but this kind of just lays out where we're at timeline-wise. I'm going to put up my reporting. So other things that we're working on related to strategic planning, some of the dates coming up. We met on November 3rd, so this is what's happened kind of since our last episode of regular school board meeting. We met on November 3rd, and we worked to revise our student, staff, and family desired daily experience statements. We finalized a draft of our theory of action, which is basically if we want X, what do we need to do to get there? And then we also are working on the draft of our district vision card. And you'll hear a lot more about this at our upcoming meetings, but there's really good progress being made there. And then we meet again tomorrow night. And the sessions are 3 hours long, so it's a great commitment of a lot of our teacher leaders and a lot of our district leaders working on this. So these meetings take quite a bit of time, but it's really constructing a stakeholder-informed strategic plan. So again, tomorrow we meet and we're going to be reviewing and refining those daily experiences a bit more. We'll be reviewing and refining that theory of action, continue developing the vision card, and then we'll be doing a lot on the development of that operational plan. But again, you'll hear more about that partly through the World's Best Workforce meeting on November 29th, as well as classroom boardroom update on December 6th. So lots going on, particularly related to our planning. As far as our secondary and elementary scheduling updates, as you know, we've had a committee of very, very dedicated teachers and leaders working to create a middle school schedule for next year that was focused on meeting the needs of the new art standards. There were 3 options that were explored. Each had pros and cons, and the committee did a thorough job of exploring all possible options, and we're striving to meet the desired daily experiences of the students. But again, there were pros and cons to each. I know we've heard things about the exploratory wheel and the impacts there on world language and physical education and CTE, but it did put the art standards in place, and it did also, one of the aspects of exploratory wheel is that it gives students exposure to a wider variety of additional classes, so they can see different things, so that when they go to high school, there's more choice. But as we move forward, and as we also were thinking about how can we make sure we're putting forward the best schedule that meets the desired daily experiences of our students, family, and staff, we wanted to make sure that that work was done so that we could use that for that schedule. And we also found that with the potential for additional funding, and also some things I'm hearing about potential additional support for more of a middle school model at the state level from the state, as opposed to the junior high model that we fund things with. We felt that it was prudent for us to take some extra time to make the right choice rather than make the quick choice. And I know sometimes it's frustrating to have things take longer, but I think it's important to realize when it's time to pause and time to really reflect on where you're at, and how can we make sure that what we bring forward is really collaboratively designed for the best possible outcome. With that said, that committee did a lot of hard work, and Jen Larva in particular I want to thank for the work you did in leading that work, and she'll be responsible for continuing to lead that work as we move forward in secondary scheduling. As far as elementary scheduling, it's a little bit more brief, but that committee is working very hard too. They're working diligently on changes to the specials rotation and other factors, just trying to make sure that the day has better flow and it meets the needs of the students better, as well as the staff. I think in general, there's quite a bit of support for where we're at with that. And we look forward to sharing more details with the board in a meeting in the very near future. As far as music supports, we heard a little bit. Here's a just brief review of history, and I shared this in the previous weekly update. But prior to 2020, there were lessons that were paid for through the district budget. So there were less people employed to do lessons. In the spring of 2020, that was prior to me being here. I'm not trying to blame past administrations for decisions, but I think sometimes we all know that our decisions have different ramifications, and some things are going to be bad, and some things are going to be positive. But there were tough choices made with necessary budget reductions. There were some budget changes in the spring of 2020, and part of that was the reduction of those music positions. In 2021, you might be thinking, well, why is this coming to light now? In 2021, there were no music lesson teachers, but we were not in person during that time, so the students weren't really in class using their instruments. They were using eggshell cartons and things, video lessons from home. And when we were looking at how we were going to use our COVID relief funds, music was identified as an area that was really hard hit by the pandemic, because it was hard to teach anything remotely, but something that's physical and practice based, like using a musical instrument, was even harder yet. So we identified some additional funds for that first year out of the COVID money to provide co-teachers, and that the intention of that was, knowing that our students were behind in their music lessons, it was meant as a one-year piece to help catch kids back up, so to speak. It wasn't the lessons teaching in the past, it was a new way of doing things. But for this year, when we were each year the ESSER funds get reduced smaller and smaller, and this year we had placed those funds on different priorities. But we are really hearing and feeling the effect from this first year. So we are looking at what can we do at this point. And as you heard from one of our public commenters, we met and discussed this situation with a variety of stakeholders from the music community. We talked with folks from the Duluth Superior Symphony Orchestra, as well as the Lyric Opera of the North, which I like their acronym, LOON, about what possible partnerships could look like. And we also met with current music teachers representatives, as well as past representatives, and talked about how can we consider the possible moves forward. And our intention is to fill those positions at the rates that they were at prior to the pandemic for this year, because we do have some ESSER money to be able to do that, and that will allow us some time to really explore what can the partnerships look like. But I would say we're even more optimistic than even just replacing those positions, because we've had conversations about how could the partnerships even be more robust, where we're bringing in people from the symphony and bringing in people from the lyric opera to partner with our schools and maybe provide some enrichment and additional instruction there. So I think sometimes out of tough situations, you take your lemons and you make lemonade, and I think that's where we're headed. As far as community and school outreach, we have a variety of things here. Again, as I've mentioned, we're trying to spend a lot more time in schools and in the community, and I think a number of board members who have taken part in some of those sessions, as well as Adele and Patty, and for their support. Since our last meeting, our regular meeting, we met at the Woodland Community Center, and then last night we met at the Morgan Park Community Center. And then prior to our next meeting, our next regular school board meeting, we'll have 3 more events. We'll have the Portman Community Center, the Harrison Community Center, and the Lafayette Community Center. And I'm hoping we get more robust attendance. I think it's always good, and sometimes when there are a few people, we're able to go deep with the conversation, which is nice too. But we're hoping that we get a good turnout with our cocoa and cookies and conversation. That concludes my superintendent's report, but I'm able to answer any questions you might have.
questions or comments? Member Sandholm?
Thank you, Superintendent Magus. I appreciate your report to the board and our student representatives too, for that matter. I just have one question, and maybe I'm asking this question too early in the game, but when I look at something like theory of action and district vision cards and or just even something desired daily experience statements, what are we going to be doing, and what's the plan to implement these things once we've developed what that's going to be? And have we started to implement some of those desired daily experience actions we've taken?
So multifaceted answer, but yes, we are taking actions that are working towards what's emerging from the desired daily experiences. Even though they're not finished yet, we know what they indicate, and I would say through the work that we've taken thus far, we're seeing that there's a lot of work that needs to be done related to our multi-tiered systems of support, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done on focus on teaching and learning and our academic outcomes. So how can we improve our instruction, and also sometimes make sure that we talk about kind of freedom within fences or defined autonomy, that we know that the way things are taught in schools, that there's that it's a little more uniform, that it's not every teacher basically choosing their own thing or individual schools completely choosing their own thing. I'm not saying that that's where it's at, but that we bring a little greater uniformity, and that we also make sure that the instructional techniques are better aligned with best practice research on how to teach. So those are some of the areas that are emerging from the work we've done. We're also hearing that one of the big things that we're hearing from our students, but also around the state and from our teachers and everybody, is that people really want a sense of belonging. That I think that partly from the pandemic, but also just as human beings in general, I think in our hearts we strive to feel that we belong, and I think that the pandemic exacerbated that in some ways, but it also highlighted the need for improving relationships. So I think that that focus on making sure people belong, and along with that is sentiment that we need to work harder as a system to have greater equity. I think that there have been the systems that we have give us the results that they were designed to give us, and some of those results are very disproportionate. So how do we change those systems so that they're more inclusive, more caring, more supportive of our students? So those are some of the ways that we're doing it, but I can get more into the concrete, particularly at the December 6th school board meeting, but also as we are finishing those. The operational plans are what, so basically the strategic roadmap lays out roughly where we're going. The operational plan is what are we doing each year and to get to that vision of where we're going. And then the district vision card is how are we measuring what it is that we said we were going to work on to make sure that we're actually getting there. So that's really how those systems operate. But it's important as that work is starting to come to a head that we make sure that everything's shared with the board, but also with the staff and public too, because they help create it.
Right, thank you. I think we should all expect to hear more as this progresses and evolves over the next several months.
If I could provide a couple of clear examples, and then we can provide additional information moving forward, but I do want to remind everyone that we did to foster positive learning environments in school, we created several positions. They're called MTSS specialist positions. Each school now, using our ESSER dollars, each school now has an MTSS specialist, so it's a person in the building who is charged with focusing on the positive learning environment, making sure that, we talk about that MTSS, which is multi-tier support, that tier 1 is positive learning environment, right? And so how are they making sure that sites are focusing on putting strategies and efforts in place is part of their role. Also, those individuals are charged with providing some small group support for students in restorative practices and other things So that's one example of how we have already started working on those efforts, because prior to even the most recent student engagement, we also received some input from the community over the last 2 years, and those things came out. Students want to feel connected, a part of, and so we already started putting some efforts in place to support those. And the last thing I'll share is we've also just recently allocated some additional resources to provide supports for the libraries, to make sure that there are additional library books and resources that are multicultural in nature, that support the effort of making sure that when the kids and students have an opportunity to go into the library, that they see resources and books that reflect them, their culture, and so additional resources have been expended to support that effort as well. So those are just 2 examples, and I could go on with more examples of some of the work that we are already doing to, again, get at what students and families are saying that's what they want to experience as they come into our buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you, student reps. I'll see you at the Gallop on Thanksgiving, and just for all the updates from both the high schools. Lots of great things going on, and it's been fun to get out to the schools as well. Superintendent, I appreciated the updates and keeping us informed on the meetings you had with community members yesterday concerning our music program. I think you heard from many of us that we as board members really value our music programs, and our kids, many of us, our kids participated as well, and know the selling point our music programs have in this district. And so just keep us updated and keep those conversations happening with to really expand what we can to offer particular lessons. And then I also just wanted to appreciate kind of the updates that involve our language programs. Again, a selling point for us as a district, and again, as a parent, my kids all had the opportunity to be in language, some in middle school because we had a 7-period day at one time. And so just keep those conversations moving because, you know, I've heard a lot out in the community the value, and as discussions have been happening of both the music and the language, and our need to really know that they're prized in our district. So, and then lastly, I was just going to mention the December 6th meeting that we're having with our retreat. Maybe we could have an update again just on the strategic plan. I know Ray Queener, who has been facilitating, has gone over kind of the process, but maybe just a quick update again for people on where we're going as part of that retreat will be important.
I agree. And como un maestro de español, no quiero cortar el español tampoco. Los lenguajes son muy importantes, como la música también, y quisiéramos decir sí a todas las cosas, pero no podemos. Entonces, es importante que dividamos las prioridades del distrito cuando estamos haciendo eso. Just saying that as former Spanish teacher, I don't want to see Spanish cut either. It's something very important. Like music, it's very important, and we have so many priorities. We want everything to be a priority, and it's important for us to make very careful choices as we do our strategic planning to decide what those priorities should be, because we do have limited resources, so it's a tough situation.
Other comments? Thank you again. So we're going to move away from our number 8, and we go to just the schedule of meetings and events. And I know it's here somewhere, but you get a weekly update from Executive Secretary Paquette. Is there any questions about upcoming meetings? So Superintendent Megas, November 29th, World's Best Workforce, community opportunity for them to come in. Board members are there, but it's not an official board meeting, but we sit almost like we're in the audience, right? Or can you update us on November 29th? meeting, World's Best Workforce? Yes.
So it will be a meeting with the community and presenting for the community, but Mr. Bonds and I are working on the format of that. I know that he's, because it rests partially with the teaching and learning team. You want to describe what we have in mind? It'll be a little different than what we've seen before. I think in the past there was very much a celebration of everything going well, but I think that this is maybe a bit more focused on where are we at, what is the reality of our current academic performance, and what are we going to do about it.
Correct, and I would view it as a state of the district of sorts with regards to academics and outcomes. So there will be a presentation provided by the Teacher Learning Equity team that's going to review a summary of the data related to our district's performance and our school's performance and how we became a district that has been identified as need improvement, and some of the schools and how that process went and what was calculated to determine when a district is in need improvement and what a school has not met to be designated as in need improvement. So there will be some clarification on how we became a district needs improvement. In addition to that, as always, we're going to always share the information regarding current programming improvements, right? Goals that we have established as a district and our strategies that we're going to employ to make improvements. And that's going to come through the most prominent document that we have, which is our World's Best Workforce. It's a core document that lists all of our district priorities, and the Teacher Learning Equity team will be there to provide some insight on all of those key strategies and supports that we are putting in place to improve outcomes, not only as a district, but also in respective schools. So it's going to be more of a workshop kind of style presentation where we're going to be looking for a lot of feedback and some good questions regarding those efforts.
Are we doing that meeting here in this media center?
It's going to be at East.
Okay.
Here.
And would it be any consideration to maybe doing it in the auditorium? Does that resonate at all or not? You know
Yeah,
what
I was
you're.
going to say probably not in terms of format.
Okay.
I think this still lends itself to a good format for a workshop versus an auditorium.
Ever luck with that?
Yeah, are we gonna be producing an annual report of some kind, like we have in the past with the World's Best Workforce?
Yes, it's already in draft form, and we've been modifying it as we have conducted stakeholder engagement. As Superintendent shared, we just recently met with the tribe to get their feedback regarding the World's Best Workforce, which is required by state statute. We're also meeting with our principals and other leaders, and we are continuing to seek input from the community. We just had a World's Best Workforce advisory meeting, and that was last week. Again, getting input from a variety of stakeholders regarding our planning. And so it's in draft form. We continue to modify it, and we'll be presenting that final draft on the 29th.
So we want a variety of community members to attend that event?
Yes.
Okay.
We welcome.
So again, just looking at our schedule of meetings, we have a Education Equity Advisory Committee meeting this Thursday, November 17th at 5 o'clock at ICO, and the two board members that are on that committee are Amber Sadowski and Alana Oswald.
I actually have an update about that too.
Okay.
Actually, so dinner's gonna start at 4:30. They kind of revised their format, so if anyone here or in the community wants to come to that EF meeting, dinner's gonna be at 4:30. 4:30 to 5 is that network and relationship building, and then from 5 to 6 is subcommittee work, and then they have their regular meeting and it adjourns at 7. So it seems like they're shortening it a little bit, kind of streamlining the process in the meeting, so.
Thank you. And just a reminder too of the committees that we have as our board work. If you ever cannot make a meeting, please let Superintendent Mangus or myself know, and we'll see if we can, if I can attend a meeting. I've always been, as the board chair, someone who would be the next one in if you couldn't make it. Member Crawford.
I just, sorry, I just wanted to say that I'm so proud of our BSA because members of our Black Student Association have regularly begun to attend those EAC meetings. So yeah.
I have to say, I have really loved that you are there, so, and then to see students there, so, thank you.
I'd also like to comment about the World's Best Workforce meeting we had last week. In the past, last year, for instance, it was not very well attended. We only had a few people show from the community, but there was a significant effort to have outreach, and we had over 30 people there. And it was also, there was intentional outreach to make sure that we were making sure that the attendance was diverse and truly represented our student population. So it was a broad range of perspectives at the table for that meeting. And I think that was really, really important. So thank you, Mr. Bonds and teaching and learning team for that one. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Moving along we go to the report of the standing committee, and our first report is our committee of the whole, and I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. The monthly meeting was held Tuesday, November 1st, and it was held at our United Healthcare Group site. It was as always, a very informative and detailed meeting. We had a presentation that was provided by Principal Hensela. He provided some insight on the residential enrollments as well as programming that is offered there. I think it was a great opportunity for us to just hear all the wonderful services and supports we provide our students throughout the district that I think many people just are not aware of. And so it's a testament to our school district. We offer from our youngest learners to our oldest learners through our adult basic ed to our students who need other kinds of support. So it was really encouraging to hear how our residential treatment centers support students and their families. So kudos to Mr. Hensela and his team. We also had a presentation being provided by Principal Glokey regarding ALC-AO programming. He also provided a very creative way of describing how classes are created and how staffing comes together with the AOC staff and our AEO staff to create positions, again, to support students in a variety of ways. Again, it's just a testament to our district in terms of the ways we are structured to provide supports for kids who need different opportunities, and our ALC-AO programming does that. There's another report being provided by Head Start Director Williams, providing an update regarding early childhood. It was an annual report, as well as the Head Start training that the board had underwent. And so that was an opportunity that she, again, provided an update for. And then there was a discussion regarding resolutions. Specifically in this situation, it was related to a potential gun and safety storage resolution. So there was some discussion regarding resolutions overall, how they should come to the board and in which fashion, and in this case, looking for feedback on the potential creation of a resolution, which we have done for tonight. That was the scope of our meeting.
Was. We were there. Any questions? Thank you, and we've always said this, that it's really at our monthly committee of the whole meetings, which usually is the first Tuesday of the month, that there's much more dialogue, much more questions, many presentations where community is informed, school board members are informed on the variety of programs and needs of our district. So attending the committee of the whole meetings, I think is probably, one of the most important opportunities for our public to come in and really hear what's going on and be challenged. And we ask good questions, we clarify things, we give direction to the administration as to what the board would like to see. And so it's an opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you.
We're moving next to Human Resource Business Service, and I turn it over to Chair of that committee, Member Eater.
Thank you. I just need to start out and thank everybody. I was a little bit of a mess that day, came in late. I'm glad Superintendent Magus kept me on the phone, not on speakerphone, because it was a lot of four-letter words strung together. So I just want to thank everybody and acknowledge my lateness at that meeting. So I just want to start out, we had our meeting on Monday, November 7th. We got started around 4:35. We started out with a guest presentation, Nathan Norton and Pat Overham from ICS that help us manage our construction of our new district services building. They came in with Mr. Spooner and talked about some of our construction change events. And we reviewed what that definition is of change events. You build some cushion into a budget for some unforeseen things that may affect the budget one way or the other. So you can look on Board Book and see there are some change events listed for facilities, some for the DSC transportation and roadways. There's quite a few more there, and then also having to do with the demolition of Central High School. What is important to note about these change events is that they are within the budget and the entire project is going as it has been planned. And in addition, these change events do not impact the overall budget. And I believe Mr. Norton or Mr. Overham talked about the percentages that are built into a budget when you're doing a project of this size. So I encourage everybody, the public included, to go ahead and take a look at what change orders have occurred and take some time to look to see how these projects are moving forward and that they're being done in a fiscally responsible manner and also very transparent for our public. Once we got done with our guest presentation, we moved on to our departmental reports, starting out with our HR monthly departmental summary report. What we see from there is that, let's see, you can look at the staffing updates. We've had some hiring of about 22 some non-certified staff, so that's been really helpful over the district, including 4 new hires in our certified staff. You can go ahead and look at the retirements and resignations and what leave of absences, but overall we had some, we've hired some non-certified staff, and that's really good news. That bus route must really be working. I thought the other day up by the mall, it still looks pretty good. We then talked about, I think Director Severance talked about the teacher retirement. The teachers that are planning for retirement have to give us that information by February 1st, and that's going to help us plan better for next year in terms of retirement and replacing that institutional knowledge of those teachers leading us. Was there anything else to add, Director Severance? I think that's kind of what we looked at, correct? Oh, of note is we are in continued discussion with management leaders and union leadership of the Oilers unit, and hopefully should be coming up with an alternate proposal that we should see pretty soon. That sounds good? Great. Moving on to business services. Moving on to business services, we have our finance department report done by Simone, and talked about where we are, that verbal report of note. And that report really wasn't that big because we had the presentation about our change orders. So that was really what we did for our finance report. For business services. Next, we had our enrollment update, and as Superintendent Magus talked about, we are seeing an increase in our enrollment of about 85 students from what we have projected, so it's always great to see those enrollments moving in a positive direction, and our students are indeed staying in the Duluth Public Schools. So I think that's important for people to hear and see, and for us all to acknowledge. We had a great presentation for the Child Nutrition Departmental Report. Cheryl Oates came in and really educated us on what's happening within our Child Nutrition Department. What was really great to hear from her is that she is currently located in Denfeld, and she feels like that really gives her that first-hand look and knowledge of being close to seeing how child nutrition is done in the district, so she was really positive about that. She also talked about, a grant through having to do with our, what is it called? Farm to School. That Farm to School, that's what it is. So she will be working on that Farm to School grant, bringing that back. We haven't been able to have our supper service because of staffing issues. What she did reiterate several times was that staffing is a big problem in our child nutrition department. She also talked about how we're handling our free and reduced lunch, getting that paperwork and getting that information back. She was very complimentary of how the principals have been working very hard and about how the district has been working really hard to make sure we can get as many of those applications back to the district. So overall, she was just absolutely lovely to have the conversation with, and I learned a lot about our child nutrition department. Of note as well is that our nutrition department was the Large Employee of the Year award for MOA, which is the Minnesota Organization for habituation. I can't say it, it slips me. And rehabilitation. So child nutrition was named 2022 Outstanding Disability Employer for providing exceptional work opportunities for employees with disabilities. These employees assist with our program as dishwashers and other tasks as they are able. We are grateful for this award and for having them in our kitchen and helping us get our students fed. So that's something for us to really be proud of. Moving on from child nutrition, we move on to the facilities department report, and you can find that in board book. Our facilities maintenance crew have completed 301 work orders and are currently working on 335 open work orders. When we look at our capital construction, as we heard from our student representatives earlier, East has been working very hard to rebuild the hands for the clock for the Dental Clock Tower. Condon Park window replacement is done. It's looking almost done and looking great. The new Dental's bed bathroom should be done fairly soon. And our LTFM projects for next summer are being discussed. And I know Mr. Spooner and our finance director worked very hard on figuring out how to get our LTFM projects done in a timely manner. Stowe is getting some paint, which is exciting, and in case anybody was wondering, PSS Track Lane 1 ponding remediation is now in negotiation, so pretty exciting. Construction on the hill is progressing really well, and again, I would refer you back to the guest presentation to look at the change orders. And as usual, our building staff is doing a great job in keeping everything clean and safe for our students. Moving on to our technology department report, you can find that great report on board book as well. What we're seeing is we're seeing more emails, right, more use of storage, all those things as our students work through the semester. We are continuing to work on cybersecurity. This is really important because how safe our network is going to you're going to see a correlation to how much we pay in insurance. So Bart and his team worked really hard along with Arctic Wolf to make sure that we have our network is being kept safe. They're doing some work to install and move some wireless access points, which is really important as we move to our blended learning model and we have more load on our system. And our new AV equipment is on order, and part of it are here for our new DSC school board meeting space. That's pretty exciting. Moving on to our transportation department report, what is of note for our transportation report is that we are transitioning to using Transversa for routing. So this implementation is a big deal because we're moving what software that we use for that routing. So I thank all of our transportation employees. Of note is that we've had 115 trips in October and we have 47 scheduled so far in November. I love reading about those trips for our kids. And hopefully pretty soon we're going to see those buses that we have on order. Hopefully. We have a couple recommended resolutions, acceptance of donations, acceptance of grants. On our consent agenda, I just wanted to bring this to the attention of the school board, there were, and please, during the separate, feel free to answer any questions that the board may have, but we have a couple new job descriptions, one for a purchasing coordinator. And as I look back at my notes, we had an individual who served in that role for 32 years. That was Tony Kalakovich, so he is moving on.
He retired.
He retired after 32 years.
And we are redoing the position, and, you know, we wish him the best. He was amazing. He did a lot of good work for the district and made sure we abided by all the rules of purchasing and state contracts, so we just want to wish him the best in his retirement.
And this new description of this job more closely aligns with what that person actually does on a daily basis.
That is correct.
This is great. Next, we have a job description for the accounting supervisor.
So I'm also kind of revamping a position in the finance department as well. I'm in a different desk now. We are just kind of realigning some different duties in the department, and this one makes sense to us, and we've added some duties to it as well.
Yeah, that's great, because once we lost CFO Erickson, you moved into this position, so this is a position built to help support our department, and it's really not gaining anything, we're really just doing some replacement.
And this was actually a result of an audit of,
Yes, thank you.
of the accountant too, because of the added duties that have been given to her over the last 5 to 6 months.
That's great, and I think I have in my notes that this, maybe I have it in my notes, that this was a great example of labor management in action, because we realigned the positions to be more closely to what the duties actually are. So I want to compliment everybody on that. And last, we have a job description for the health service coordinator, and this position, we could go ahead and anybody want to talk about the health service?
So this position is a new position that we are creating within our facilities kind of safety area. So it will help support not only student safety, but employee safety and wellness along with the safety person that we have. And it will also help with the nursing staff as far as giving that public health direction to them. So it is part of our non-certified business is where it lies. So that it will kind of be a district-wide, but it'll focus on students as well as staff, and then help support some of those student injury safety components related to that, in addition to the public health piece for the district.
And this is a new position.
It is a new position.
And we need this position because it's going to help support wellness and health within our district, both for our students and our employees.
Yes.
And I would say it's a new position, but we did have somebody that was in a role as our COVID coordinator. So to some extent, it's a new position, but it also is partially similar to something we've had previously, right?
Yes, so it would serve in kind of that public health, similar to how the COVID coordinator did during COVID. So it would carry that component along with other duties.
Yes, that's great. I think it speaks to the lessons that we learned during COVID and how we need to have a more district-wide coordinated response when it comes to health and wellness. So thank you, that's a great addition, I believe. You can go ahead and look in board book and see our financial reports. In addition, you can see that there are some, Simone has nicely laid out in a smaller Excel spreadsheet where the money from ESSER is going, what's been spent, and what we have left to spend, and what that money is directed for. We also have our spending and budget expenses laid out as well, so those financial reports you can look to see. Next, we have fundraisers. There's been some great fundraisers, a lot of focus on getting our students to Wolf Ridge, which is a great experience for our kids. Keegan, my oldest, talks about it all the time. We have our bid, we had no bids, RFPs, or quotes, and we had no contracts, change orders, or leases. What we did have in our miscellaneous information is you can read about the district property updates. There's some great pictures associated with the district property updates that show the progress that's been making on the DSC and essentially the bus barn, right? We have our expenditure contract signed, and if you look on the agenda, you can see those expenditure contracts start on page 46, and we have all the way to page 132, essentially. Those expenditure contracts, take a look to more closely view those. Let's see, we had a couple no-cost contracts, and then we had no revenue contracts, and then on page 174, you can see that we had some grant applications. I'm just trying to get there quick. And that really does conclude our HR Business Services meeting for November. Are there any questions?
Not a question, but just thank you, Simone and Teresa, for the written reports that your staffs are getting to us. They're just really well detailed, and for those of us that aren't at that committee and just listening to it, those reports are really helpful, so please pass that on.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Again, just a thank you for the Finance Committee, David and Member Eater and Member Oswald, for shepherding through 174 pages of financial reports and contracts, and it's interesting. We get to watch, although I think I shared with with Assistant Superintendent Bonds that the United Healthcare facility isn't as easy to watch our reports as it was when we were more live streamed, and but it's still there, and we still get to listen, but the handouts do help move it through, and especially the ESSER funding, and just that clarity too. We're always interested to probably see more of that in months to come too. But I again appreciate the work of the Finance Committee, because that is your charge from us, is to really make sure that everything's going well and we're in good hands. So
It just speaks to the talent of our staff.
True.
Talented staff. Thank you.
So that concludes on our agenda number 9B, and so now we're moving on to 9C, and it's the Policy Committee, and I'll turn it over to Chair of that committee, Member Laflerkamp.
Okay, great. So we met on Tuesday, November 1st, and we brought 2 policies for its first reading. They'll be on the consent agenda. And really want to appreciate Adele, our communications director, for the work she did for policy 722, which is a public data and data subject request. And again, this is a first reading, but just to note that school districts are required by statute to establish procedures consistent with the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act for public data requests and data subject requests. So this policy we had reviewed and revised in 2020, and so there were a lot of state statute changes, and so when you're comparing the policy we're bringing forward to the current policy we're under, you'll see at the end a lot of different statute additions there. And our School Board Association, as well as MASA, the Superintendent's Association, provided some good advice for these updates. So just I guess I would say kind of compare the current one to the updated one, and there's a number of areas that there were changes made on from definitions, that was one kind of big category where there were a lot of changes made, to request different, under the area of request for data, some changes there, and it really became a longer policy.
8 pages.
So yeah, went from 6 to 8. So and then there were at the end also just because of our address changes, who's the responsible authority, which by the way is the superintendent, but the compliance official is our director of business services, And so as you kind of compare our current one to the one that we're reviewing for its first reading, you'll see some changes in those areas. And then the second first reading is policy 534, is our school meals policy. And again, some good language changes to this policy to make it frankly more supportive for families. I'm just going back and forth myself from, so as you go through, particularly under the area of payment of meals, there were some changes there. That was section 2. And then again, a lot of different language changes in the rest of the sections. Again, just reminding the public that in 2021, the Minnesota legislature amended Minnesota statute section 124D.111 that now states that Minnesota school districts that participate in the National School Lunch Program must adopt a school meals policy. So the last review of this was in 2017. So again, this will be in the consent agenda, and this is the first reading of those 2 policies. Member Sadowski or Member Sandholm, did you have anything you'd want to add? It's just the first reading, so we don't need to spend as much time on this. But.
No, I think you covered it very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that was our policy meeting. Any questions?
More of a comment, I'd like to say thank you to Member Loeffler Kemp for the facilitation of that group, as well as Members Sadowski and Sandholm. I think we're hitting that cadence, and we've during our board plan, our annual board plan, we have it sketched out that we're going to be doing roughly 25% of the policies each year, which is ambitious and more than we've been able to accomplish in the past. And we're really making some solid progress on those policies. So very appreciative of what we're able to get done through the leadership of that committee.
And these are 2 big ones. So,
yes.
Yeah, lots of dialogue, state and national on lunch menus. So I encourage us to continue to look at that policy. Maybe, I think our policy committee is, just like I said with our finance, we really look to the leadership of the 3 of you to really dig deep, and then when you come back and think that we should be approving it, we will support that because of the work you guys do. But I do listen to a lot of coffee and conversation with school boards across the state and just other school board meetings, and I'm proud of the work that we've done in school lunch policies and making sure that we're doing what's best for our district. So that kind of concludes our reports for our agenda on number 10 or 9, which brings us to just general board committee updates, and that's an opportunity for any of us that sit on some of our committees that we're appointed to, or any committees you sit on as a member of the board that you might want to connect with. Yeah,
Just a procedural question.
Okay.
Do we need to have a motion to accept the consent agenda and pass that before we move on to these other things?
But I'm still on number 10, just general board. But yeah, we will go to the consent and accept that, or accept that or pull. Does that clarify?
Fine.
Seeing no board comments tonight, I'll move on to 11. It is our consent agenda, and we have had a copy of that in our board book. If you take a look at our consent agenda, and most of you, all of you, in your individual board reports have alluded to what's on the consent agenda, so I'm certainly not going to go through this whole agenda and point out to you what you can read on your own, and you've all done a good job of saying what's on there. I'm going to see if there is a motion to approve our consent. I'll ask for a second, and then I'll ask if there's any discussion or if there's any desire to pull something off and have a separate vote or discuss it further. So do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Member Eater makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Member Sandholm is the second. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor of accepting the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Seeing none, the consent agenda passes 6-0. Moving right along, that comes to number 12, our resolutions from committee reports. So I'm going to ask my board members to read into our minutes the resolutions under 12. So 12A, acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools.
I'll read that. Acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools, whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 requires the school district to accept donations by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full, and whereas acceptance of the donations in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described donations from said organizations and individuals, I should say, in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to these various individuals and organizations. And there are a lot of individuals that I won't have time to mention, and some organizations as well. And I move the acceptance of resolution B11223921.
Do I have a second?
I think we do it, we do a roll call.
We do.
Okay.
Second. Okay, Member Sadowski, and then this is the one where we do a roll call approval of the donations.
All right, Member Derek Eater.
Yep.
Member Kirby.
Yes.
Member LaFontaine.
Yes.
Member Winkle.
Yes.
Member Sadowski, yes. Member Sandholm.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 on our donations. Our next resolution is our grants.
And I have that one in front of me. This is, I move resolution B11223922, resolution acceptance of grant awards to Duluth Public Schools. Whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 requires a school district to accept grants by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full, and whereas acceptance of the grants in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described grant from said organizations in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to these organizations. Definitely would like to thank Metronet and the Northland Foundation, and then the seekers of these grants. So I move to accept resolution B11223922.
Is there a second?
Second.
Member Kirby is a second. So all those in favor of accepting our donations, say aye. Or our grant, acceptance of our grants, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Those are the two resolutions under number 12, and now we move to 13 because we have some special resolutions and some action items. So I call your attention to 13A, and I'll ask Member Loeffler Kemp to read the resolution and make the motion, and then we'll be looking for a second and any discussion.
Great, and I appreciate the discussion we had on this at our committee of the whole meeting, and the thoughtful discussions that we've had with community members on this and the emails we've received. So I move resolution SP 11223923, resolution on safe firearm storage. Whereas evidence strongly suggests that secure firearm storage is an essential component to any effective strategy to keep schools and students safe. Whereas an estimated 4.6 million American children live in households with at least one loaded unlocked firearm. Whereas every year, roughly 350 children under the age of 18 unintentionally shoot themselves or someone else. That's roughly one unintentional shooting per day, and 70% of these incidences take place inside a home. Whereas another 1,200 children and teens die by gun suicide each year, most often using guns belonging to a family member. Whereas in incidences of gun violence on school grounds, 75% of active shooters are current students or recent graduates, and up to 80% of shooters under the age of 18 obtain their guns from their own home, a relative's home, or from friends. Whereas research shows that secure firearm storage practices are associated with up to an 85% reduction in the risk of unintentional firearm injuries among children and teens. Whereas across the country, lawmakers, community members, and local leaders are working together to implement public awareness campaigns such as the Be Smart campaign program, which is endorsed by the National PTA and which encourages secure gun storage practices and highlights the public safety risk of unsecured guns. Whereas keeping students, teachers, and staff safe from the threat of gun violence should be the responsibility of all adult stakeholders at each of our school sites. Whereas state law requires adults to securely store their firearms where a child is likely to gain access to the firearm. Whereas in order to continue with preventative measures to increase student and school safety, we must act now. Therefore, be it resolved that the board and the superintendent will continue to work with elected officials, local law enforcement agencies, healthcare agencies, mental health providers, nonprofit organizations, and other advocates to collaborate and increase efforts to inform district parents, guardians, and caregivers regarding secure storage of firearms in their homes and strategies to reduce the prevalence of gun violence in communities served by the Duluth Public Schools. And be it further resolved that the board directs the superintendent or their designee to create an appropriate letter of communication to parents, guardians, and caretakers that explains the importance of and obligation regarding secure gun storage to be included in the back-to-school communications at each school site and ongoing education throughout the school year. I move resolution SP 11223923.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Kirby, Member Kirby, second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Must be moving on up to our next special resolution. It's B, approval of licensure variances. I'll ask Superintendent Vegas to go forward with those, or are they just?
I'd like to defer to Assistant Superintendent Bonds on the two license, or actually the first of the two, which is the Community Education Coordinator license variance.
Yeah, I'm not even in the right spot. Appreciate it. And the question on the table is?
So,
well,
I apologize.
Can you explain the
multitasking.
He was working on board-related work. I can see it up at committee the whole work, I promise. But can you explain the circumstances with the license variance request for the Community Education Director?
Yes. As typical, when we have an individual who is that we are seeking to hire for employment and they do not have a license, at the time, the school district is required to seek a variance for the employee. So at this time, we are seeking a variance for our Director of Community Education Coordinator, as well as the assistant,
And that's the next item.
oh, that's the next item. I'll stick with this item first.
Oh, okay. So are we gonna approve them one at a time? Or can
We
we?
could approve them
We
together.
can,
if
we
you'd
can
like,
approve
Mr.
them together.
Chairman.
So do you want to speak to number 2, the Assistant Director of Special Education? Or?
And it's the same.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's a situation where we were unable to find someone who had the appropriate license at the time. The individual that we have moved forward with to hire will be seeking certification. So in the meantime, the district has to apply for a variance, and we have started the process for a variance for both individuals.
And I know that the board needs to approve this because both of these variances just need, one of the check boxes on your application for the variance is that the school board has been alerted to the request. So all those in favor of approval of the licensure variances, say aye. Oh, you have a question?
Just clarification maybe for fellow board members too. I believe that most of these variances are all one-year variances, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did the state relax or change any of the procedures on variances?
Not that I'm aware.
With COVID or not?
Yeah, not that I'm aware.
Okay.
In this situation, but candidates, I know they are issued annually, but they have up to 3 years to actually complete the certification.
To pursue it, yeah. All right, thank you for that explanation. Thank you.
So approval, all those in favor of the district going forward with the request for the variances, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then our last one is our superintendent contract. And you have received it just recently, I know. And so I want to appreciate Member Eater's direction and help on this contract along with our school lawyer from is it the Rupp Anderson firm that Zach is from? So he gave us great guidance and assurance that our contract is in line with state statutes and with language professional for a superintendent contract. And then also Director Severance was in on a number of our meetings to make sure we're aligning with what other directors in our district are receiving and just some clarifications. I do want to call your attention though to one slight tweak that we have to do in the contract. It is all all ready to go, and it is just, I think it's on page 5 and it's under our life insurance. And the tweak doesn't make any significant or, big change in a contract. It's just that working with our life insurance policyholders, just wanting to clarify that the school district shall provide at its own expense term life insurance for the superintendent under the school district's group term life insurance plan payable to the superintendent. Is that how it reads? Do I have the right copy in front of me or the wrong copy?
It should have that carrier language in there. It's just with that additional, it's
Pending carrier approval?
Pending carrier
Okay.
approval is the difference.
And that's kind of the tweak. So, again, the superintendent's contract was worked on over the last probably 5 weeks with Member Eater, myself, Director Severance, and our lawyer, Zach. So I'm looking for I'll make the motion to approve the superintendent contract.
I'll second it.
And is there questions?
I just have a question, right?
Okay.
Other than the salaries, is there any significant change in this from the previous contract? I cannot see any.
There were additions, Jill, you mind if I?
Yeah, you can.
There were what I think might be kind of significant and probably pretty helpful is an addition of some money for the superintendent monthly that can be used towards what you call business expenses. So it's sort of a streamlining a process. So instead of every time the superintendent gets a case of water or purchases something that normally he would go back and go through finance or HR to get the reimbursement, this way it just streamlines the process. There's that money there that he can then use towards the district. And I think that was probably one of the things that was significant.
And that was only $500.
And that would include local mileage and things like
Yeah.
that too, and usually my expenses are somewhere, after you took out tax, because they'll take taxes, it's not a significant increase from where we're at. I would also say there was an increase in the amount of my life insurance that was commensurate with what we saw in other districts related to ratio based on salary.
And I think that's something that we spent a lot of time and that Zach, our attorney, brought to these conversations, was looking to make sure that we're right sizing the superintendent contract for the size of district that we are in comparison to other districts of our sizes and complexity.
Yeah, there's not any other significant changes from his first contract.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Not a question, I just wanna, confirm, so the contract is for a term of 3 years commencing on July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2026.
One other factor, there was language within my initial contract about having a superintendent evaluation, but with work with the hiring, or with the contract negotiation committee, we thought that might be better to include in board policy rather than individual superintendent contracts, because then, many years down the road, future superintendents could have that as part of theirs too.
And that was really at the suggestion of our district attorneys, just to make sure that the contract looks more closely like other contracts, superintendent contracts in districts like us.
So seeing no other questions, we have a motion and a second on the superintendent's contract. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Moving to question, number 14, is there any questions or other?
I have an other related to the item that just passed. I just want to say thank you to the board as representatives of the community, and just say thank you for allowing me to serve in this position. I'm very humbled by it and very grateful to have the position and grateful for the contract. And I also, my intention is to stay in Duluth. I love Duluth and we own a home in Duluth now, and I plan on being here. And so having a contract settled this early prior to the next start of the contract is really affirming to me, and I'm very grateful for the work that was done in putting the contract together, as well as just being able to serve as superintendent for District 709 Duluth Public Schools.
And again, I share that too. As we worked together, this was the first time I've ever shepherded a superintendent contract as your board chair. And so I learned a lot in that process as well, and really appreciated the direction that Director Severance gave us in some areas, and then again, our district lawyer. But then Superintendent Magus was just really gracious throughout the whole contract, and really honest in what his requests were, and just really humbled on how we were moving forward. So it was really a really great learning opportunity for, I think, Member Eater and myself, that we can bring back to the board again down the road. So thank you. And so I'm looking for, well, I have an adjournment, and then I have a number 16.
I deleted that was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
Chair Local?
Yes, and then I see Member Crawford.
I just wanted to say, one thing that I forgot to include in my report is that this Friday in our gymnasium, to also support Native American Heritage Month, we are holding a round dance.
And Member Knox.
I have a question about, so student representative elections are coming up soon, and I was wondering if any of so I have some of the information about how that process, the selection process is supposed to go, but it is from last year, so I wanted to double check if any of that information has changed, or if there's anything different you'd like us to do with that process.
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because we have started that conversation with Executive Secretary Burkett and, member, our Superintendent Magus, if you know any updates. I know that, our next step would be to reach out to the buildings, and that usually comes from the Executive Secretary after kind of a conversation with Superintendent Magus and myself.
Say the
I'm
only,
not anticipating any changes in the process.
other than maybe extending your time with us because we've enjoyed it so much. No, we have deeply appreciated the service of both of you and the leadership. I think that both of you have done just an exemplary job in the role, and we look forward to the next people stepping in, but also please know that if there's anything that I can help you with letters of recommendation for university or anything like that, I'd be honored to write a very, very favorable letter for either of you.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for, bringing that up.
Yeah, I would just add one thing too. You'll also be getting notice of, our Minnesota School Board Association has a scholarship that you can apply for that only seniors who have served on a school board. I think the deadline's February or March. We can make sure you have it for the December meeting, the application. And we encourage you to apply. We've had winners from Duluth in the past for competing with student reps all across the state, but we definitely encourage you to apply.
Thank you, yeah.
Great. And it just kind of baffles me that we're already at our November meeting, and so next month is your final board meeting with us, so the reminder that we are moving forward with the process of election should be, at the forefront of your communication with your building principals and myself and Executive Secretary. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And Member Eater is motion, Sadowski is second. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.